Great. Thank you, Tristan. I love it when you read the scripture first. I love it when everybody reads, but like I get a visual as you read it. So this is awesome. Friends, can we take a moment just to notice where we are? And Janet, Marvin was saying, where's Janet? Janet sat next to me last time. Just notice where you are today. Okay. Do you all realize it's 66 days until 2025? 59 days till Christmas. Not that you're counting. Okay, here we are. It is the end of October. We're nearing November, December, the holiday season. I don't know about you, but holiday season can be rough. There's a lot of emotions baked into it. You have familial memories, you have friendship memories, you have different phases of your life come up. Oh, 2011, I remember. And for me, as someone who has tendencies of seasonal affective traits, which says, as the sun gets shorter and shorter, and it's darker and darker, I tend to like go with the weather. And so my mood gets really low. So I have to be very conscious about taking my supplements, vitamin D, and getting the happy light on and whatnot. But I want for us to think about this because you guys know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She talks about the stages of grief. I see that nodding. What are some of the things that she says that's the stages that we go in through? So if you don't know, they say Elizabeth in the 1960s came out saying, you know what, we all lose someone, and when we lose someone we love, the grief process is as such. And then she goes through these stages. Do you remember some of them? What were some of them, folks? Denial is one of them. What's the another one? Anger, acceptance, depression, bargaining, and what? Grief. Okay, so there's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. I think you guys named all of those. And she also states that this goes in order. Hence the title, Healing is Linear. But guess what? You all know. Healing, linear. So according to Elizabeth's theory, now we know we had a lot of studies after that, and we have different theorists and different theoretical orientations to help us that there's actually many, many ways. But when you say healing is linear, when our culture says healing is linear, what are you picturing literally? A line, okay? So something happens here, and you kind of have to just go through the stage through anger. What is it? Through denial, anger, and what's bargaining? What does bargaining look like? Then, yeah. So you're bargaining with the higher power. If you only give me a second chance, I promise to get my act straight. I'll stop gambling, God. You're all supposed to laugh. Nobody has gambling problems here? Okay. Right? It's the bargaining. It's like, please, like you're desperate. But what you're actually doing is, it's just a temporary escapement to confront. Rather than confront those initial emotions that come, you're bargaining. You're like, let me hold out. If there's any way I can work this out with you, I'll do it, right? Bargaining. But what happens after bargaining, they say? No answer. So depression, and then you come to the acceptance. This is so well known and so embedded. I know you don't believe that healing is linear, and yet, what do? We systematize and we think of ways that we can get ourselves to a better place. Meaning, if I want to be healed, some of you might be saying, okay, if you're really spiritual and religious, you would start with, I have to ask for forgiveness, right? Clear all the soulful things out. And then what do you have to do? And then I have to go back to church. I have to go back to church and show God that I mean it, that I'm really gonna like go to church now. I don't want to go to church, but I'm going to church because of you, right? You make this, and then so you go to church, and then what do? You gotta listen. You gotta do all these predictable things that you've been told because we still have the idea that if I do this, then this. If I do this, then this. It's like how we like to think of it. But as you know, in counseling sessions, your therapist might draw something like this. And what does this mean? Right? That's great. Sounds like you guys were in therapy. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. I like this. Right? We say, all right, there's going to be times where you feel like you're moving up, up, up. You're doing really well, but something happens and you backslide. And you're like, man, I thought I got this straight. I thought I was over it. But you backfall. So this is a point where you say, oh, I ain't gonna do it. But the counselor is there to show you, no, you're still moving. You got to keep going. There will be, right? But eventually you'll get there, wherever that place is. So that's another way. I want to ask you, how does your healing take place in your life? Just internalize that. How does healing take place in your life? What does it look like? Say you want to heal your inner wounds, child inner wounds. What are you going to do? How do you go about that? Do you just meditate and think about my inner wounds? Or do you go into church and do reflection? Like, what do you do? Do you have ways that you address when you're not feeling well? Okay, good. Because you guys will be talking about that. I don't know why I keep closing it when I have such trouble opening it. The question, what does healing look like for you? And I'm learning, mid-40-year-old, that actually healing isn't this or this. Because this, for me, assumes I'm going in a direction, I will have fall, go back up, and it's repetitive. I'm like, this is a pattern. This is a pattern that I don't want to get into. See? And I think our healing process is more. I love it when things like this happen. Healing, I'm going to say, is more like this, and tell me if this is more accurate. Oh, yeah. Is it not true? And then here's the thing. That's just you. Someone else comes in with a different color and they're like, and then they meet you. That could be a point of friction. And depending on where you are, guess what? You're going to respond differently. So this is, first of all, never to assume that somebody, when they're healing, you assume, well, it's been 2 months. Well, it's been 6 months. It's been well over a year. Why are they not here? Well, because they're not supposed to be. Might be for you, but everyone is going to be different. We all experience healing in a different way. Let me give you an example. I'm going to close again. I'll just slightly close. I have wisdom. I have a lot of, and it's recording like this, of course. No doubt about it. But this is important. I need to hear this because guess what? I'm getting goosies. We have wounds, friends, that we've not processed this year. We have feelings that we repressed. We have healing work that maybe we kind of put in the back burner thinking, well, if I just keep going, if I just keep doing the right things, then I'll be on the right path. And even me, as a trained therapist, this model, I knew I could backslide, but I knew like it was still there. And I thought because I dealt with it, because I touched it, because I worked with it, it's not going to come back. Boy, was I wrong. And I'll show you, I will illustrate the experience. This year has been really about me trying to understand my mind with body connection. Do you guys have trouble, like you're thinking one, but you're feeling another way? Like I'm showing up happy, but inside I'm like totally anxious. And I'm trying to better understand and better listen to my mind and body at the same time. So I've encouraged myself to attend and put myself out there in workshops that does kind of some of these things. So I should have known better. I went to a workshop called Somatic Movement. Oh, somatic movement. I love movement, right? And so I'm doing this. And the activity was with a group of strangers. That's kind of vulnerable, first of all. But the leader sets it up very safely. And she says, we're going to have a mirroring. We're going to do a mirroring session where one person is the receiver and the other person is the sender. Do you know what this will look like? Mirror me, Tristan. Tristan is a dancer, by the way. This was all it, okay? So I'm facing this woman, and I'm just copying, mirroring her, whatever, okay? I'm like, ooh, she's got some moves. I'm like doing it with her. And then the speaker says, that child that you envision in front of you, let her know how much she's loved, that inner child. And so this woman, in her mind, in her third mind's eye, whatever, she is looking, visualizing at her inner child and loving her, okay? And she's caressing. And by this act, I'm like, trying to hold my tears. I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is her inner child. What I felt instantly was her love. Her love for her inner child was so genuine. It was so moving. And I felt so deeply moved by her being connected with that inner child and showing and conveying that much love. And I was like, and when I answered and looked at my tears, I recognized that's what I am missing, right? It wasn't her. What I felt through that was there's an inner child in me. And there was this understanding that I don't do that to my inner child. I don't love and caress inner child. And I was like, wait a minute though. I've been through inner stuff. I'm an adult. I'm married. I got a kid. You know, I can't have these inner child wounds at this time. But that's what happens. It comes up. And you know what? That is there as a gift. That is there as a gift and a reminder, just as Jesus did in today's text. This man, for 30-some years, had a notion that if I want to be healed, I'm going to have to go into that pool. Somebody's going to have to help me or take me so I could go to that pool. And the understanding was that the mystical learners at the time who were disabled, who were sick, who couldn't find any medical reasons for why they were sick, and they were at the last end of the rope, and they're like, I got to find something. They would go to these pools and dip their body. And when there was like a hot, spring, bubble it up, it was like a sign, a manifestation that your body's going to be well. And so, of course, you got people who are sick coming there. And this man, too, knows if I just get there, I'll be okay. So he has an idea. And he's predicting, I just have to go. Somebody has to. And so that is his answer. When Jesus says, what are you doing here? I can't go because somebody has to da-da-da. And he believes this is the way how he's going to be healed. And Jesus breaks that. Breaks that traditional. Breaks that notion that you have to go in a certain way to be healed. In fact, Jesus says, get up. Get up. Right there. Friends, you might think healing may come only if you do this or that, if you went through this or confront this. Healing can take place anytime if you're willing to receive it. And also if you're willing to actually look at it. Look at it. We are so good with not looking at ourselves. In fact, we have this mentality that grief can't get to me. Grief, it's not going to break me. It's as if like grief and hurt are weakness for us. In fact, when they're not. I'd like you to ask your neighbors at this time. I'll have you break into groups and share this. What are some ways that we hold rigid expectations when it comes to healing? What are some unnecessary barriers that we put? Like, my inner child is not going to be addressed because I'm not that. Or because I don't have time for that. Friends, if we want to be made well, if we want us to heal, we got to do the healing work. All right, so here's a question coming after you. I'd like you to talk to your neighbor only if you, at the extent that you like. You don't have to share. But here's the question. The question is, what are some ways that we hold on to rigid expectations when it comes to healing? And that could be mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. Okay? Take a deep breath. All right. Why don't you take this time and try to share from not here, but imagine your eyes kind of fell down to your heart. You're looking from the heart's eye. So think about ways that you're trying to make your life better. Maybe there's relationships, there's situations that you're trying to do better in. What does healing look like for you, and why is healing not taking place? Okay. Will you go and share, please? You're just like... What would happen if we let go of those expectations? You mean like be open to healing at any time? Why not? Why not? God is willing to show us that healing can take place at any time. Under all kinds of circumstances, even in cases where people around thought you can't be healed because it's Sabbath, or because you haven't gone to therapy, or because you haven't done this. But rather, understanding that healing is not linear. We never arrive at the destination, but it's more about going together wherever we are so that we have the ability to heal when we are open to it. By doing this, friends, we first helps us to not judge others on their healing path. Because we're not thinking, well, you should be here by this time. It took me, like, I got over it. Why aren't you over it? It first let go of that judgment and expectation. And you have much more compassion. But that compassion is what you are actually directing to yourself. And they say how you love yourself is a direct relationship of how you are loving God. So how are we loving ourselves? I hope we can continue the healing work. This is a spiritual oasis. You are in a reservoir when healing really is underneath everything trying to hold you. It only makes sense that we then, on this healing journey, continue to heal so that when we go out away from Vermont Hills, that I will meet Tristan, and Tristan will help me to know exactly where I need to be, and he will make space for me to grow. Yeah. All right. Folks here who are going to Costa Rica, could I have you just stand up if you're able in your just spaces? We have a lot more who are going, who are not here, but all right. So, what's that? Vote all the important stuff while they're gone. The reason why I had you guys take, you can sit down, is they'll be gone. They'll be away from us for 2 weeks. Is that right? So 2 Sundays, we'll miss you. And I hope wherever you go, whoever you come across, whether it's creatures or non-creatures, I hope you go knowing that you are a healer while you're healing. And you are going, it could be a healing experience, and it can be a healing experience for those who are witnessing you healing. So we pray that you have a safe travels, that you will do your work while we make all the important decisions here. Don't be surprised if things disappear. We'll do that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tristan. Oh, Joy.